Someone once told me that the gold mine in the leather shop lies in the scrap bin. Now, most of us as crafters, we got into the business to save a little bit of money on a project or make a little extra money. So when we spend our hard-earned money on good leather, like Herman oak leather, and we cut that up, we don't want to throw any of it away. Like us, we have a box full of these little scraps in the shop from cutting belt ends. So these little scraps from belt ends that could easily get tossed in the garbage are actually going to get turned into good money for our shop and help increase that profit margin. So I'm going to show you 3 ways to take scrap leather and turn that into money for your business. The first and probably the most obvious thing to do with your scraps is to make projects out of them, right? We can make a project and sell that project to get money today. Let's just talk about a few quick little ideas off of just these scraps that we have sitting here. So here's 3 different lengths of little scraps that we have. Maybe we take one, tool up a piece and put that on the flap of a bag. So that's an extra piece for a bag, or a tooled part that gets sewed onto a strap. Any of that can upgrade a current product that you're already making just using that scrap piece. And tooling that, we can fit in and grab any belt pattern that you want to grab, and that could tool onto there really easy. Let's take another kind of a medium size one. I don't know, that looks like it'll probably, yep, that one would be long enough. We could simply punch 2 ends on that, tool that up if we want, and now you have a cuff bracelet. Or we want to turn that into 2 of them. We can split that down the center and have 2 narrower bracelets out of 1 scrap, make 2 projects out of that. Not a bad idea there. And then you're just setting a snap on either end. You're set to go. But as we get down, the pieces get smaller. What are we going to do with those? This one here is a little too short to use as a cuff, but we could cut this one down here too. Let's see if we find a, here we go. Here's a pattern that would work great. Just the end of this where we take this one flower and turn back here. That would come up there. That's about half of that piece there. So we could tool that on there, punch a hole in that, slick your edges off, and now you have a keychain. Pretty cool tooled up keychain, key fob, anything like that. You get 2 of those out of 1 piece there. So make those little projects, sell those. Now you just took this little scrap off of a belt end, made 2 keychains. What do you think that that's going to bring, right? Probably enough money to pay for that whole belt blank. So that's a great way to bring profit to your business. Selling those 2 little small scrap projects actually made you the money to give you the rest of your belt blank essentially for free. Not a bad thing. All right, we started with the most obvious projects, right? We're going to build projects out of the scrap leather and make money with that. Now let's start going to maybe a little less obvious ways, but we'll go to the next P. We're going to go from projects to patterns. Now, what do you mean patterns? How are we going to make patterns out of our scrap leather? Well, let's look at making a tap off. Okay, so if we want a pattern, say we want to take one of these belt patterns and we want to transfer that onto our leather, well, you can wet your leather down, make a copy of this, put it down there, and trace that with a stylus every time. Or we make a pattern called a tap off. So I'm going to wet this down, and I got a whole video on making tap offs if you want to see how this is made, but this is essentially what a tap off is and how it works. So this tap off made from a piece of scrap leather, let's turn that over onto our wet down leather here and tap it off with a hammer. And now you can see we have that pattern transferred on there, and we can go along with our swivel knife and follow those lines. Now that's great, but how does that make money for your business? Well, let's talk about efficiency. How much time does it take you when you transfer your patterns onto your leather? How much time did that take me to transfer this one? Now, if you want to make more money for the time you're putting in, That's how you do it right there. Let's shorten up that time that you put in on each project. So you can do that today and increase your profits. I'm not talking about getting better down the road later on. I'm talking about just right now today, you can cut time on every project you do by having a tap off for that if it's one that you're going to tool multiple times. So it's a great way to add profit to your business simply by cutting your time, increasing your efficiency. So patterns is a good way to go. The last of the 3 P's of your scrap bin is going to be practice. Practicing with that scrap leather. That might be an obvious thing to do with scrap leather, but it might not be quite so obvious as to how is that going to grow your business or make money for you. So let's dive into that for a minute. We've had other videos about pricing and business, and we'll put links in the description for all these extra videos that you can find. But the problem with some of that is if you're just getting started, you might not be that good yet. So even if you're building out of high quality materials, and you might even have really nice tools, if you don't know how to run the tools, your stuff still might not be worth the same amount of money, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how we all started. But you have to put in the time to practice. So we can't charge high prices just because something's handmade. It's kind of like, think about when your 5-year-old kid makes the pottery, project at school. They make the little ashtray. That's probably an older project. They don't make those anymore. Maybe it's a cup, right? They're going to make a little mug, coffee mug, and it's really cool. They think they're super proud of it, and you love it, right? You have sentimental value for that, but they're not going to be able to turn around to the marketplace and charge the same prices as a pottery shop that's hand making and glazing, and they've been in the craft and they've really perfected their craft just because this thing's handmade. Like, cute idea, good job, but you haven't put in the practice yet, right? So the same thing comes with leatherwork. So every last little scrap of leather you can get, put the practice in. Run that swivel knife. One of the biggest issues that people come to me with is, oh, I can't get the hang of this swivel knife. My decorative cuts don't look like yours. Why not? Because I've ran my knife for miles compared to your little jog that you've been in with your swivel knife, right? You have to run it those miles, and that comes with all those little scraps. So it's the best thing for your business long term. Now, I know you probably clicked on this video looking for those projects. Well, what do we make out of the leather, scrap leather, to make that quick money? And we can do a part 2 video later. Let us know in the chat or in the comments there if you want to see more in-depth videos on how to make those little projects, and we'd be happy to do that. But that's for the short term. For the long term of your business, if you're looking to actually grow a substantial business, not simply pay for your hobby, but grow a business, then practicing on those scraps is going to be huge. Now, practice on the little pieces that you're making into keychains and stuff. Your practice isn't going to take very long, and it's going to be to a point where you can actually market that and sell that anyways. But remember the very lesson that I told you I learned right off the get-go. The gold mine of the leather shop is in the scrap bin. Let us know in the comments if you want to see that part 2, if you want to see the in-depth on how to film each one. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out each week when we put out new videos. And I'd like to personally invite you to come hang out with us in our crafters community, the Leather Life Classroom. There's a link to that in the description as well. Look forward to seeing you on